Republicans cannot ignore Kamala Harris's biggest weakness. The 2024 presidential campaign was turned upside down last week with the withdrawal of Joe Biden from the race and the virtual coronation of Kamala Harris as his replacement. With just weeks to go until voting begins, the sprint is now on to define the presumptive Democratic nominee with the minds of voters. Fortunately for Republicans, Harris has plenty of vulnerabilities to highlight. Despite the media's whitewashing attempts, Harris may well be the most far-left major party presidential candidate in American history, and some GOP ads have already begun to highlight her positions, ranging from open borders advocacy to discouraging meat consumption. The Democratic Party's ideological extremism on gender is one of the biggest vulnerabilities, and with Harris, the party has now put it front and center. But while exposing her extremism on immigration, crime, emergency policies may be an effective strategy, the vice president's weaknesses go far beyond these issues. Harris also has a long history of promoting a wildly unpopular cultural agenda, one that Republicans would be foolish to ignore. As Harris herself admitted during her failed 2020 presidential run, she said, "Way back when, with the power that I had, I used it in a way that was about pushing forward the movement of transgender, frankly, and the agenda. This was a rare instance for her telling the truth." As California's Attorney General, for example, Harris forced a policy change that allowed male prisoner inmates who identified as women to undergo taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries. Her office negotiated the deal, allowing the first taxpayer-funded surgery such as this for an inmate in the United States for convinced criminal Shiloh Quine. And another inmate involved was quickly released on parole and went on to get the surgery under California's Medicaid program. And ironically, he now believes this is an insanity in California's prison has gone too far. He says, "I didn't mean it to happen. My case in 2015 opened a doorway, and I'm waiting for the states to apologize to women." Harris, though, apparently remains unfazed. She didn't mean for this to happen. When Harris entered the Senate in 2017, she began to push this agenda even further. She was a pioneer on the issue, co-sponsoring bills to put these type of people who identified as such in women's sports, locker rooms, school bathrooms, domestic shelters, and elsewhere. She also signed on to legislation to force hospitals and doctors, including those with conscientious objections, to perform such procedures, even on minor children. And as Vice President Harris has continued her far-left cultural crusade, and going against any state that dared to fight back against such extremism, she lambasted laws protecting people from such contents in schools, and she criticized policies protecting integrity and fairness in women's sports. In the meantime, the Biden-Harris administration has been busy trying to reinterpret existing laws to accomplish what Harris could not in the Senate. And during her time as vice president, her administration has tried to force doctors, hospitals, and insurance companies to fund and perform such procedures, even on minors. It has attempted to force schools to allow such people in sports and private spaces. Unsurprisingly, all of this is deeply unpopular with the American public. Large majorities of voters oppose men and women's sports, sex change procedures for minors, and appropriate gender content in schools. And as Republicans like Glenn Youngkin and Ron DeSantis have shown, candidates who run on these issues can be very successful, even appealing to those beyond the traditional GOP base. And now, although Democrats want voters to view Kamala Harris as a fresh face and a reset for the party's ticket, the truth is that she has been a leading figure for years in the far-left culture on what most see as American families. The Democratic Party's ideological extremism on gender is one of the biggest vulnerabilities, And with Harris, the party has now put it front and center. And with the election now up for grabs, after last week's unprecedented events, Republicans cannot afford to let this advantage go to waste. This was from The Blaze. It's on DNYUZ. What do you think about this? Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.